Yeah. Okay, so my number one is Beyond Two Souls, PlayStation 3. Now, as people probably know, this is the new game from Quantic Dream, headed up by David Cage. Everybody knows this already. It's not a sequel to Heavy Rain, but it's certainly a spiritual sequel, for want of a less obvious pun. Done in the same engine, certainly in the same style, QTE-driven, very sort of blurring the lines between film and game, and more so in this case because you play as the real actress Ellen Page, who plays a girl called Jodie, and you play as her throughout different stages in their life, from childhood to sort of young adulthood, I'd say. And the whole game's told through a non-linear narrative, so you'll play one bit where she's an adult, then the next scene might be when she's 6-7 years old and whatnot. I think it's a really, it's an incredibly impressive game. It looks amazing for a current gen game. Absolutely incredible. The technology that they've got to capture Ellen Page, and Willem Dafoe's another major character in the game. And I mean, you can tell that it's not filmed because occasionally it looks a little bit unusual. But I mean, in terms of capturing the emotion of the performances and just the general animation, the way that in every single scene Jodie looks different. The different hair, different clothes, different face. That's amazing. The fact that when she's a young girl, this is something you could never do in films. You know, when they have a kid, if they have a flashback scene in a movie and there's a star in the movie, and then they go to the flashback scene when they're a kid, the kid looks nothing like what the grown-up would look like 99% of the time. Whereas with this technology, they can actually just make it look like that's how she'd look when she was a kid. So that's very cool. The story is... It's a kind of supernatural story mixed with a coming-of-age story, right? So Jodie is a girl that has an unusual power, and that power is that she's kind of connected to this being, almost a poltergeist-type being called Aiden. It's spelled... she calls him Aiden, but it's spelled Aiden, like we'd say Aiden in England, but Aiden in the game. And you can move Jodie around the world and interact with QTEs just like you do in Heavy Rain, but you can also press triangle, and then you control Aiden, and he controls more like a free camera, like when you detach the camera in Forge mode or something in Halo. And he can interact with different things in the world, like he can interact with people, he can sometimes possess people, or he can knock over tables and light switches and things. And... the game kind of tells the story about their relationship and Jodie's time growing up, in which, they found out about this quite early in her life. So she kind of grew up in an almost a military institution where they were studying her and things like that. Her relationship with Willem Dafoe, and at times it's certainly, I really enjoyed the story. I think people going into it looking for something high-minded or hugely deep and intelligent might be slightly disappointed. I kind of saw it as more like an interactive TV movie in terms of its plot. It's nothing hugely original. We've seen it all before. But what David Cage does manage to do with these kind of generic stories, especially in Heavy Rain and here, is put you right in the middle of scenes that, by interacting with them, give them a lot more depth. There's a scene later on in the game, and it's not a spoiler at all, but basically you play as Jodie having to get ready for a date, and it's just an absolutely brilliant scene because it put me into a role that I could never possibly have experienced. And it's not the role of being a soldier crouching behind a wall, or a fucking car thief, or a little man jumping over platforms. I've done all those, and that's great. This was something that I could have never possibly experienced. The panic of, should I go and put this on in time? What type of clothes should I wear? I thought that was a brilliant scene, and that's something that you've seen in films, but to actually have to do it yourself was great. I just thought it was a very cool game. It does fall down, it does get very cagey at certain points. What I mean by that is, like Fahrenheit before Heavy Rain, Mr. Cage has the... sometimes I think you need someone to come in and edit him a little bit, because it does veer off into bollocks territory occasionally. But overall, I did really enjoy it. It's a technical marvel. The story is very engaging, and I must say Ellen Page's performance is absolutely riveting. I mean, genuinely, it's got to be one of the best in-game performances. She gives it her all. I mean, she's clearly into the project. She gets it. This isn't one of those phoned-in performances. It's all her. I think she's an amazing actress anyway, and the game for me was almost as much about just witnessing and being directly involved with that performance as it was playing it as a video game. I really enjoyed it, so I definitely do recommend it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm only halfway through, but so far I am really liking it. And I do think that it's, if you didn't like, I mean, the default setting apparently for everyone who plays games is to be fantastically shitty about David Cage's ability as a writer. I've never felt that derogatory. I mean, I enjoyed Heavy Rain for what it was. He's derivative, he's occasionally a little bit pretentious, you could say, but I've never really found that to be too much of a bad thing. I think the story here is simpler. There's less characters, so I think that there's less tendency for him to get bogged down in... there's moments where the game just kind of... It's a lot more laid back. Actually, it's similar to the bit you were talking about when she goes on a date, which I haven't done yet. There's a really brilliant bit where you're just wandering around your house when you're a child. And it almost as well. I think the only way it could have been done better is in a book, but it completely conveys that misery of being stuck alone in a house when you're a kid and your friends are busy or they're not around and you're just kind of just wandering around looking for things to do. And it's still, I don't think it could be done in any other medium just because it's still engaging despite the fact that you're walking around trying to find shit to sort of keep you busy. And also further on in that sequence, actually, it really, really does a brilliant job of showing how terrorised this child is, and which sort of explains how she is when she's a little bit older. The decisions that you make, there are a lot of... Well, I've come across, I'd say, 3, maybe more, like significant decisions where you can tell the story is going to splinter depending on what you do. I really love the fact that they keep them under the surface. And on two occasions, I had to act really quickly because I realised midway through an act that this was how significant this was. I was like, I should probably stop doing this. Or in another sequence, I was like, I should probably,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Being taken by surprise, because decisions in every game that sort of is adult, quote unquote, those are so well signposted that you're given a bit of time to think about it. So I kind of like having them sprung on me. Did you ever stop? About 5 times so far, I've stopped. Because I thought I was watching a cutscene, because I thought that it looks way too good to be interactive. And it is completely interactive.
Yeah, multiple times during the game. Yeah. And some of it looks really good. Some of it looks incredible. I mean, genuinely incredible. Yeah,
it's floored me a couple of times. Also, it's a tiny detail, but in any photorealistic game, but especially Heavy Rain, one thing that has never been handled very well is when characters bump into scenery. They kind of continue walking into it, and they turn and rotate on the spot, and it doesn't look right. In this, it looks amazing. You can just walk into stuff, and you're kind of the way you react to stuff is really quite stunning. I take it you haven't played; you've just played it on the pad.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. I've played it in 2. I've played it on the PS3 pad. I've played it on an iPad Mini, and I've played it on co-op with my girlfriend. I had the pad, and she had the iPad. So it seems like this is because the thing about Heavy Rain was that almost everyone I know who played it with their partner. So boyfriends and girlfriends played it together. The only people who didn't play it is that there's some of my friends who have a PlayStation 3 in the house, but then they don't play games with it. It's like a media device.
Yeah.
So I tried to recommend them Heavy Rain, thinking that they'll enjoy it, and they never played just because they're slightly intimidated by the PlayStation pad. So the fact that there's iPad support is genius because it makes things so much easier. In fact, I kind of preferred it to the DualShock. I mean, it makes things easier. When you're idling, you just bounce around to significant points of interest rather than having to move it with 2 thumbsticks.
I did think that would actually be a stumbling block for some people who had enjoyed it, Heavy Rain, because it doesn't take any traditional gaming skill. There's no traditional gaming language to it. Whereas the whole twin stick thing is the thing that puts off a lot of people who pick up a first-person shooter, for example, and just end up, who've seen it, they end up just looking at the ceiling and they don't know what to do. And because you control idling like that on the sticks, I did worry that might be the case for people who wanted to play Beyond. But if you can do it on the tablet like that, that sounds good.
Yeah, it's great. It's tap, and it's the gesture-based stuff is really, really satisfying as well. I think, to be honest, so far I prefer playing it like that and having it as co-op because, I mean, I passed the pad with my girlfriend back when Heavy Rain came out, and that was a great way to play it. And, now we don't even have to do that. One of you plays as Aiden, one of you plays as Jodie. And, really clever. It seems like they've really gotten to the heart of what sort of Heavy Rain kind of missed out on because it's even more accessible and it's even more geared towards 2 people playing rather than 1. But I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying the story. It does look amazing, as you said, and I'm looking forward to finishing it. So, yeah, I mean, you reviewed it, didn't you?
That's right, yeah. I reviewed it for Games TM magazine. I believe the issue is coming out soon, or it's already out. I'm not 100% sure on that, so I won't give away what score I gave it just in case it's not out. But
right, okay.
yeah, really enjoyed it. Like I said, those who've played Fahrenheit, it doesn't go like Fahrenheit, don't worry, but it does veer into that territory occasionally. Perhaps it could have done with a couple of scenes being erased that are in the second half of the game, but they don't spoil the enjoyment of the game at all. And also, anybody who's worrying, they did the E3 demo where they showed her basically being a soldier, and it looked like every other fucking game in the world.
I don't know. I don't think I saw that, to be honest.
Okay, I'm pretty sure it was E3. They showed her basically taking part in what looked like your typical Splinter Cell mission. That is in the game, but it's done very well, and it's a very small part of the game, and it's actually one of the best parts of the game. So don't worry, it's not like every other game. It's all makes sense within the context of the story. It's all fine. So don't go into it thinking that it's not what you want it to be, because it probably is what you want it to be.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I agree. I think it's really, really terrific so far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of it. And also, if you even vaguely thinking about it and are not au fait with the PlayStation 3 controller, the iPad support is, I think, superior. So, get involved, I think.
Yeah, great stuff. Another strong PS3 game this year, PS3 exclusive, going out strong before the PS4 arrives.
Yeah, indeed.